My name is Bonnie. I am 58 years old, and I thought I understood what family meant. For decades, I believed that blood ties created unbreakable bonds, that love and sacrifice would always be reciprocated. This Thanksgiving taught me otherwise. While I sat alone in my large, empty house, my children, my grandchildren, and my sister gathered around another table, laughing and sharing a meal I was intentionally excluded from. They carved turkey without me, so I carved their names from something far more permanent, my multi-million-dollar estate. Before I tell you what I did about it, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next taught my family a lesson they'll never forget about taking people for granted. Let me take you back to the beginning so you understand how I arrived at that lonely Thanksgiving evening. I am a widow. 12 years have passed since I lost my husband Thomas in a car accident that shattered my world when I was only 46. We lived together in this sprawling house in the suburbs of Boston, Massachusetts, a home we purchased when our technology company finally made it big. Thomas and I came from nothing. I grew up in rural Vermont, where my father worked in a lumber mill, and my mother cleaned houses to make ends meet. Thomas came from similar circumstances. We met in college, both of us on scholarships, both of us working multiple jobs to afford textbooks and rent. When we graduated, we had dreams bigger than our bank accounts. In 1992, we started our company in the garage of a tiny rental house. Thomas handled the technical side, while I managed operations and finances. It took years of 18-hour days, missed meals, and sleepless nights, but our company grew. By 2010, we had built something remarkable, something that caught the attention of a major corporation. They offered us $75 million. $75 million. Thomas and I sat at our kitchen table, holding hands, crying, because we had made it. We had actually made it. We paid off every debt. We bought this house. We set up college funds for our 3 children. We invested wisely. Then, in 2012, Thomas drove to the grocery store one rainy evening and never came home. A drunk driver ran a red light. Just like that, my partner, my love, my best friend was gone. The grief nearly destroyed me. For months, I could barely function. My children rallied around me then. Jessica, my oldest daughter, stayed with me for weeks. Ryan, my middle son, called every day. Even Aaron, my youngest, seemed to understand the weight of loss. We were a family, united by tragedy, or so I thought. After Thomas died, I threw myself into managing our wealth. I worked with financial advisors, diversified our investments, purchased rental properties, and bought municipal bonds. By the time I turned 50, my net worth had grown to approximately $8 million. I owned this house outright, valued at $1.2 million. I held a stock portfolio worth $3 million. I had rental properties generating steady income. I kept $2 million in various accounts and trusts. I was by any measure wealthy, but I never lived like it. I drove a 7-year-old sedan. I bought my clothes at department stores, not boutiques. I cooked my own meals, tended my own garden, and found joy in simple pleasures, like reading on my porch or volunteering at the local library. Money, I believed, was a tool for security and generosity, not for showing off. My 3 children each had their own lives by then. Jessica was 36, working as an accountant after a difficult divorce 5 years earlier. She had 2 children, Emma, who was 12, and Lucas, who was 9. I adored those kids. They were bright, curious, and kind. Jessica struggled financially after the divorce. Her ex-husband paid minimal child support, and her salary barely covered their expenses. I helped. Of course I helped. I paid for Emma's orthodontics, for Lucas's tutoring, for their school supplies, and sports fees. Ryan was 33, married to a woman named Heather, who worked in marketing. Ryan sold real estate, and while he did reasonably well, he and Heather lived beyond their means. They had a 5-year-old daughter named Sophie. 3 years ago, Ryan asked to borrow $50,000 for a down payment on a bigger house. I gave it to him, calling it a loan, but never really expecting repayment. He had not paid back a single dollar. Then there was Aaron. My youngest son was 29 and had never held a steady job for more than 6 months. He drifted from one interest to another, always convinced his next idea would be the breakthrough. A food truck, a podcast, day trading. Each venture failed, and each time I was there to catch him. For the past 3 years, I had been sending him $2,000 every month to cover his rent and expenses. $2,000 every single month with no questions asked. I also had a sister, Patricia, though everyone called her Patty. She was 55, 3 years younger than me. Patty taught elementary school and was married to Neil, a carpenter. They had 2 adult children who lived on their own. Patty and I had always been close, or so I thought. Growing up poor together had created a bond I believed was unbreakable. In 2018, when Patty accumulated $15,000 in credit card debt, I paid it off without hesitation. She cried with gratitude, promising she would never forget my generosity. Over the years, I gave and gave. Birthday gifts, Christmas presents, help with emergencies. I never kept track, because that is not what family does. You help the people you love without expecting anything in return. But somewhere along the way, my generosity became an expectation. My children stopped saying thank you. They started assuming I would always be there with an open wallet, and I let it happen because I wanted to be needed. I wanted to believe that my money was an expression of love, that every check I wrote brought us closer together. Looking back now, I see the truth. They did not love me more because of my generosity. They just grew dependent on it. And when dependence turns into entitlement, something fundamental breaks in a relationship. I just did not realize how badly it had broken until that first week of November, when I started planning for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving had always been my favorite holiday. No gifts to buy, no religious obligations, just family food and gratitude. Every year since Thomas died, I hosted Thanksgiving at my house. I would spend days preparing cooking, a 20-pound turkey, making stuffing from scratch, baking 3 kinds of pie. My dining room table, which seated 12, would be filled with the people I loved most. We would eat, laugh, and share what we were thankful for. It was the one day of the year when I felt like our family was still whole, despite Thomas's absence. In early November, I began planning as usual. I called Jessica first. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice distracted. When I asked about Thanksgiving, she told me she was busy and would call me back. She never did. I called again the next day. This time, she answered immediately, but sounded annoyed. "Mom, I told you I'd get back to you," she said. "I just need to know if you're coming so I can plan the meal," I explained, keeping my tone light. "I don't know yet. Can we talk about this later?" "Of course, honey. Just let me know soon." She hung up without saying goodbye. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, feeling a small knot of worry form in my stomach. Jessica was often stressed, juggling work and 2 kids on her own. I told myself not to read too much into it. Next, I called Ryan. He answered cheerfully enough, but when I mentioned Thanksgiving, his tone shifted. "Oh yeah, about that. Heather and I are still figuring out our plans." "What do you mean figuring out? We always have Thanksgiving here." "I know, Mom. It's just that this year might be different." "Different how?" "Just different. Can I call you back?" He ended the call before I could respond. The knot in my stomach tightened. 2 vague responses felt like more than coincidence. I tried Aaron next. He did not answer. I called again an hour later. Still nothing. Finally, on my 3rd attempt, he picked up. "What?" His tone was sharp, impatient. "Aaron, it's your mother. I'm calling about Thanksgiving." "I don't know if I'm coming, Mom." "You don't know why not?" "I might have other plans." "Other plans? What other plans?" "Does it matter? Look, I'll let you know." He hung up. I set my phone down on the counter and stared at it. 3 children, 3 evasive answers. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. I tried to push the feeling away, telling myself they were busy, that life was complicated, that I was overreacting. But the unease would not leave me. A week passed. I sent a group text to all 3 of my children. "Please confirm for Thanksgiving. I need to know so I can shop and prepare." Jessica responded first. "Mom, we're still deciding. Don't pressure us." Ryan's message came an hour later. "I told you we're figuring it out." Aaron did not respond at all. I felt anger rising in my chest. Don't pressure us. I was their mother trying to plan a family holiday, and they were treating me like an inconvenience. I decided to call Patty. Surely my sister would be honest with me. "Patty, please tell me you and Neil are coming for Thanksgiving," I said when she answered. There was a pause, a long pause. My heart began to race. "Oh, Bonnie, we actually have plans this year." "Plans? What plans?" "Neil's sister invited us to her place. It's closer to their house, and with gas prices so high, we thought it made more sense. But we always spend Thanksgiving together." "I know, but things change. We can see each other at Christmas, right?" "Are the kids going too?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "The kids? You mean Jessica and Ryan and Aaron? I don't know their plans, Bonnie. I really have to go now. Talk soon." She ended the call abruptly. I sat down at my kitchen table, my hands shaking. Patty was lying to me. I could hear it in her voice. She knew something, and she was not telling me. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I made a decision. If no one would tell me the truth, I would find it out myself. I called Emma, my 12-year-old granddaughter. Emma had always been open and honest with me. She answered on the 2nd ring, her voice bright and happy. "Hi, Grandma." "Hi, sweetheart. How are you?" "I'm good. I got an A on my science project." "That's wonderful, honey. I'm so proud of you. Are you excited about Thanksgiving?" "Yeah, we're going to Aunt Patty's house. She's making a huge turkey and said we can help decorate the table." My breath caught. "Aunt Patty's house?" "Yeah. Didn't you know Mom said the whole family is going there this year?" I forced my voice to stay steady. "Oh, yes. Of course. I forgot for a moment. Are you looking forward to it?" "Uh-huh. Are you coming too, Grandma?" "We'll see, sweetie." After I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Then I called Jessica. She answered warily. "Mom, Jessica, I just talked to Emma." There was silence on the other end. "You're going to Patty's for Thanksgiving," I said, my voice flat. "Yes," she admitted finally. "Why wasn't I invited?" "It's complicated, Mom." "Explain it to me." "Patty's house is smaller, and we just thought it would be easier this year." "Easier? My house seats 12 people. Patty's dining room seats 6. How is that easier?" "Mom, Please don't make this a big deal. Why wasn't I invited, Jessica? We just thought it would be better this year without you there. The words hit me like a physical blow. Better without me. I have to go, she said quickly, and ended the call. I sat alone in my living room, tears streaming down my face. My family had planned an entire Thanksgiving without me. They had discussed it, organized it, and deliberately excluded me. And no one had the decency to tell me the truth. I needed answers. I called Ryan the next morning, my voice shaking with hurt and anger. Ryan, I know you're all going to Patty's for Thanksgiving. I need you to tell me why I wasn't invited. He sighed heavily. Mom, it's not personal. Not personal. You're excluding your mother from Thanksgiving, and you're telling me it's not personal. We just wanted a smaller gathering this year. Patty's house is tiny. My house is huge. If you wanted a family gathering, why not here? Because honestly, we wanted a break. A break from what? From you, Mom. From you always being there, watching us, judging everything we do. I felt like I had been slapped. I don't judge you. Yes, you do. You comment on everything. How we raise our kids, how we spend money, what we eat, how we dress. You're always there with your opinions. I only offer advice because I care about you. We don't want your advice, Mom. We want space. That's all. So you excluded me from Thanksgiving. It was a family decision. I'm family Ryan. I know, but we need this. We need time together without you hovering over everything. I could barely breathe. A family decision. You all discussed this and agreed to leave me out. I have to go, Mom. He hung up. I sat there staring at my phone. A family decision. They had held a meeting. They had talked about me. They had voted to exclude me. My hands trembled as I dialed Aaron's number. He answered on the third ring. What, Mom? Aaron, please be honest with me. Why am I not invited to Thanksgiving? He laughed. Actually laughed. Because we don't want you there, Mom. What? You heard me. We had a family meeting. Well, a group chat. Jessica, Ryan, Patty, and me. We all agreed. A family meeting without me. Yeah, we talked about how we're all tired of you acting like you're better than us because you have money. I never acted that way. Yes, you do. Every time you give us money, you make us feel like we owe you something. Like we're supposed to be grateful forever. I give you money because I love you. No, Mom. You give us money to control us, to make us dependent on you so you can feel needed, and we're done with it. Aaron, that's not true. That's not fair. Life's not fair, Mom. Enjoy Thanksgiving alone. He hung up. I collapsed onto my couch, sobbing. My youngest son, the child I had supported financially for years, had just told me I was controlling and unwanted. I tried calling Patty, but she did not answer. I left a voicemail, my voice breaking, as I begged her to explain how she could do this to me. She called back an hour later. Bonnie, I can't talk right now. Patty, you're my sister. How could you do this to me? It's not about you, Bonnie. Then what is it about? It's about us needing time without you hovering over everything with your opinions and your money. My money. So this is about money. It's about more than that. Every time you help us, it reminds us that we're not as successful as you. It makes us feel small. I never meant to make anyone feel small. But you did. We need this Thanksgiving to just be us, without you analyzing our every move. I can't believe you're saying this. I'm sorry, Bonnie, but we need this. She ended the call. I sat alone in my house, the silence pressing in on me. They were not excluding me because they hated me. They were excluding me because my success made them feel inadequate, because my generosity reminded them of what they lacked. And instead of addressing those feelings honestly, they had decided to simply remove me from the equation. The week before Thanksgiving, I tried one last time. I sent messages to each of my children, asking them to reconsider, to let me be part of the celebration. None of them responded. I even drove to Jessica's house one afternoon, hoping to talk to her in person. She saw me through the window and did not answer the door. I was not wanted. The message could not have been clearer. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and gray. I woke up alone in my large house, the silence almost oppressive. In the past, I would already be up preparing the turkey, setting the table, making sure everything was perfect. This year, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to summon the energy to face the day. Finally, I got up and went downstairs. My kitchen felt cavernous and empty. I looked at the dining table, where I had planned to seat 12 people. The chairs stood empty, covered with a thin layer of dust. I had not used that table since last Thanksgiving. I decided to cook something for myself, not a turkey. That would have been too painful. I took a small chicken from the freezer, thawed it in the microwave, and put it in the oven. I made mashed potatoes, just enough for one serving. I steamed some green beans. I worked slowly, methodically, trying not to think about what my family was doing at that very moment. My phone sat on the counter silent. No calls, no messages, not even a simple text wishing me a happy Thanksgiving. It was as if I had ceased to exist. While the chicken roasted, I looked at social media. I knew I should not, but I could not help myself. Jessica had posted a photo from Patty's house. The whole family was there gathered around a crowded table. Jessica, Ryan, Aaron, Patty, Neil, Heather, and all the grandchildren. Everyone was smiling. The caption read, "So grateful for family time." Ryan posted next, "Best Thanksgiving with the people who matter." Patty's post showed the entire group raising glasses in a toast. Thankful for this crew, I scrolled through the photos, searching for any mention of me. There was none. I had been erased, removed from their lives as easily as deleting a file. I set my phone down and wiped tears from my eyes. The timer went off. The chicken was done. I pulled it from the oven and sat down at my large dining table, alone at one end, with an empty chair at the head, where Thomas used to sit. I looked at the 11 other empty chairs and felt a wave of grief so powerful it nearly knocked the breath from me. I tried to eat. The food tasted like nothing. I managed a few bites before giving up. I stood, scraped my plate into the trash, and walked into my living room. I pulled out old photo albums and flipped through them. Thomas and me on our wedding day. Jessica as a baby. Ryan learning to ride a bike. Aaron graduating from high school. Family vacations. Christmas mornings. Birthday parties. When had it all gone wrong? Where had I failed? My phone rang. I grabbed it, hoping desperately that someone had remembered me. It was Dorothy, my friend of 20 years. "Bonnie, happy Thanksgiving." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Happy Thanksgiving, Dorothy." "What's wrong? Where are you?" "I'm home. Alone." "What? Why? Where's your family?" "They had Thanksgiving at Patty's house. Without me." "What? Why would they do that?" "They said they needed a break from me. They had a family meeting and decided to exclude me." "That's cruel, Bonnie. That's incredibly cruel." "I don't know what I did wrong, Dorothy." "You didn't do anything wrong. They did. Do you want me to come over?" "No. Thank you. But I need to be alone right now." "Are you sure?" "Yes. I just needed to hear a friendly voice. Call me if you need anything." "I mean it." After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness. I did not turn on the lights. I just sat there thinking about Thomas, about my children, about all the years I had spent trying to be a good mother, a good sister, a good person, and about how none of it seemed to matter. Then something shifted inside me. The grief and hurt began to harden into something else. Clarity. I had spent years giving to people who took me for granted. I had let them treat me poorly because I was afraid of losing them. But I had already lost them. They had made that clear today. I stood up and walked to my office. I turned on the light and went to my file cabinet. I pulled out a folder labeled Estate Planning and opened it. Inside was my last will and testament, prepared 5 years earlier. I read through it slowly. Jessica would receive $2 million plus this house. Ryan would receive $2 million plus my stock portfolio. Aaron would receive $1 million plus a trust fund that would pay him monthly. Patty would receive $500,000. Each grandchild had a college fund worth $100,000. I closed the folder and set it on my desk. Then I opened my laptop and typed into the search bar, Estate Planning Attorney Boston. Several firms came up. I looked at reviews, read descriptions, and finally selected one, Gray and Associates. I found their contact form and typed a message requesting an appointment for the Monday after Thanksgiving. I hit send. Then I opened a blank document and typed, New will, effective immediately. I did not feel angry. I felt calm, resolute. If my family did not want me in their lives, they would not inherit my life's work. It was not revenge. It was justice. It was self-respect. They had made their choice. Now, I would make mine. Monday morning came. I dressed carefully in a navy suit and drove into downtown Boston. The law offices of Gray and Associates occupied the 15th floor of a glass building near the financial district. The receptionist greeted me warmly and showed me to a conference room. 10 minutes later, a man in his early 50s entered. He had gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and a calm professional demeanor. Mrs. Bonney, I'm Lawrence Gray. Thank you for coming in. I understand you want to make changes to your estate plan. Yes, immediately. He sat across from me and folded his hands on the table. Can you tell me what prompted this? I told him everything. The exclusion from Thanksgiving, the family meeting I was not invited to, the years of giving and the lack of gratitude, the cruel words from my children. Lawrence listened without interrupting. When I finished, he nodded slowly. I understand. You want to disinherit them. Not entirely, but I want to send a message that actions have consequences. What do you have in mind? I pulled out a list I had written the night before and slid it across the table. This is what I want. He read it carefully. When he looked up, his expression was serious. This is very clear. Are you absolutely certain about this? Completely certain? Very well. Let me explain how this will work. For the next hour, Lawrence and I went through every detail of my new will. He asked questions to ensure I understood the implications. He explained the legal requirements, and slowly, meticulously, we crafted a document that reflected my wishes. First, the disinheritances. Jessica would no longer receive $2 million and the house. Instead, she would receive my collection of family photo albums and the china set that had belonged to Thomas's mother. The will would specify, to Jessica I leave these items. May they remind her of the family bonds she chose to sever. Ryan would not receive $2 million and my stock portfolio. Instead, he would receive Thomas's watch and the family Bible. The will would state, To Ryan, I leave these items. May he learn the value of family beyond financial worth. Aaron would receive nothing, not $1. The will would say simply, to Aaron, I leave nothing, as he has already taken more than his share throughout his life without gratitude. Patty would receive $1, exactly $1. The will would specify, to my sister Patricia, I leave $1 as a symbol of the worth she placed on our sisterhood. Next, the charitable donations. $3 million would be split equally between cancer research in memory of Thomas and a homeless shelter in Boston that I had volunteered at for years. $1 million would establish a scholarship fund for underprivileged students pursuing careers in technology. My rental properties would be donated to Habitat for Humanity. Dorothy, my loyal friend, would receive $500,000 for her kindness and unwavering support. The grandchildren, Emma Lucas and Sophie, would keep their college funds, but only if they maintained a relationship with me and visited regularly. The will specified, these children are innocent. They should not suffer for their parents' mistakes. However, to receive these funds, they must demonstrate genuine care for their grandmother through regular contact and visits. The remaining assets, approximately $2 million, would be donated to various causes I cared about: environmental conservation, animal welfare, literacy programs. Finally, Lawrence added a no contest clause. If anyone challenged the will, they would lose even the token items I had left them. I'll also prepare a letter to be read at the will reading, Lawrence said. You can explain your reasoning in your own words. Yes, I want them to understand why. Lawrence spent 2 hours drafting the documents. I waited in the conference room, drinking coffee, and looking out at the Boston skyline. I felt no guilt, no second thoughts, just a deep sense of peace. When Lawrence returned, he brought 3 copies of the new will. We went through every page together. I read each word carefully. Everything was exactly as I wanted. Do you understand everything in this document? Lawrence asked. Yes. Are you signing this of your own free will, without coercion or pressure? I am. Do you understand that this supersedes all previous wills? I do. He called in 2 witnesses, employees of the firm, named Karen and Michael. They entered the room, and Lawrence explained that they were witnessing the signing of my will. I picked up the pen and signed my name on each copy. The witnesses signed as well. Lawrence notarized the documents with his official seal. It's done, he said, handing me a copy in a leather folder. This is now your legal will and testament. Thank you, Lawrence. He walked me to the door. Mrs. Bonney, I hope your family comes to their senses before it's too late. If they do, I can always change it again. But for now, this feels right. I left the office carrying my copy of the will. As I walked to my car, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I had stood up for myself. I had drawn a boundary. I had declared that I would not be treated poorly and still reward that behavior. It was not about punishment. It was about self-respect. For the next 2 weeks, I heard nothing from my family. No one called to ask how I spent Thanksgiving. No one sent a text to check on me. It was as if our relationship had simply ceased to exist. Then, in mid-December, my phone rang. It was Jessica. Hey, Mom. How are you? Her tone was casual, as if nothing had happened, as if she had not excluded me from Thanksgiving and ignored me for weeks. I'm fine, I said, my voice cool. Listen, I wanted to talk about Thanksgiving. I'm sorry it worked out that way. Worked out that way? You planned it, Jessica. You all did. I know, but it's in the past now. We can move forward, right? Maybe we can all do Christmas together at your place. Maybe. Also, Emma needs money for a school trip to Washington, D.C. It's $800. Can you help? I felt a surge of anger. She had not spoken to me in weeks, and her first real conversation was to ask for money. No. What? Why not? Because I'm tired of being your ATM machine, Jessica. Mom, that's not fair. What's not fair is being excluded from Thanksgiving and then being asked for money 2 weeks later. Fine. Forget I asked. She hung up. A week later, Ryan showed up at my door. I was surprised to see him standing on my porch, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. Mom, can we talk? I let him in. We sat in the living room, the same room where I had cried alone on Thanksgiving. I know you're upset about Thanksgiving, he began. Upset is an understatement, Ryan. I get it. We should have handled it better. I'm sorry. Can we move past this? Why the sudden change of heart? What do you mean? You ignored me for weeks. Now you're here apologizing. What do you want, Ryan? He shifted uncomfortably. Nothing. I just miss you, Mom. Do you, or do you miss what I can give you? That's not fair. You still owe me $50,000 from 5 years ago, Ryan. I know. I'm working on it. Are you, or were you hoping I'd forget? Mom, come on. I think you should leave now, Ryan. Mom, please. Go, Ryan. He left, clearly confused and worried. 2 days later, Aaron showed up unannounced. He walked into my kitchen like he owned the place. Mom, I need this month's money. No. He stopped. What do you mean, no? I'm not giving you money anymore. Why not? Because you're almost 30 years old, Aaron. You need to support yourself. This is because of Thanksgiving, isn't it? Partly, yes. That's petty, Mom. No, Aaron. What's petty is excluding your mother from a family holiday and then expecting her to keep funding your life. I need that money. Get a job. His face turned red. You're unbelievable. He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. That evening, Patty called. Her voice was anxious. Bonnie, the kids said you're cutting them off financially. That's right. Why would you do that? You know why, Patty. Because of one Thanksgiving. Because of years of being taken for granted. Thanksgiving was just the final straw. You're being dramatic. Am I? You all planned behind my back to exclude me. You held meetings without me. You made me feel worthless. How would you feel? We didn't mean to hurt you. But you did. And now you're facing the consequences. What does that mean? It means things have changed, Patty. Permanently. Bonnie, don't do anything rash. Too late. I hung up. Over the following weeks, my phone rang, less and less. Aaron stopped contacting me entirely. Ryan called once or twice, but I kept the conversations brief. Jessica sent a few texts, but they were perfunctory and cold. Patty tried calling, but I let it go to voicemail. I was alone, but I was not lonely. I began volunteering more at the homeless shelter, serving meals twice a week. I joined Dorothy's book club and rediscovered my love of reading. In January, I booked a trip to Italy, something I had always wanted to do, but never had the courage to do alone. The grandchildren were a different story. Emma and Lucas called me regularly. Jessica allowed them to visit, probably hoping to preserve their college funds. Sophie came over once with Heather, who was polite but distant. I enjoyed my time with the grandchildren. We baked cookies, played board games, and talked about their lives. I never mentioned their parents. That was not their burden to carry. As winter turned to spring, I noticed something remarkable. I was happier. I no longer felt the constant weight of resentment and obligation. I no longer wondered if my children loved me or just loved my money. I had my answer, and I had acted accordingly. My life was smaller now, but it was authentic. 6 months passed. It was May, and my garden was in full bloom. I spent my mornings tending roses and pulling weeds. I had lunch with Dorothy twice a week. I traveled to Italy in March and spent 2 glorious weeks exploring Florence and Rome, completely alone and completely free. The grandchildren continued to visit. Emma was preparing for 8th grade and wanted to be a veterinarian. Lucas had joined the school debate team and was thriving. Sophie had started kindergarten and loved to show me her artwork. These visits brought me genuine joy. The children were innocent in all of this, and I refused to punish them for their parents' failings. Then just before Christmas, Jessica reached out. Not with a phone call, but with a letter. A real, handwritten letter. I found it in my mailbox one afternoon and carried it inside my heart pounding. I sat at my kitchen table and opened it carefully. "Dear Mom," it began, "I've had 6 months to think about what happened, about Thanksgiving, about how we treated you, about everything. I want you to know that I'm sorry, truly, deeply sorry. What we did was wrong. We excluded you because we were jealous. Jealous of your success, your independence, your strength. Instead of being grateful for everything you've done for us, we resented you for it. We made you feel small because we felt small around you. That was our failure, not yours. I can't undo what happened, but I want to try to make things right. I understand if you can't forgive me. I understand if you need more time. But please know that I love you and I miss you." I read the letter 3 times. Tears streamed down my face. Not tears of anger, but tears of relief. Jessica understood. Finally, she understood. I picked up the phone and called her. She answered on the first ring. "Mom, I got your letter. And I appreciate the apology. I really do. But it doesn't erase what happened, Jessica. I know. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking for a chance to do better. That will take time. A lot of time. I understand. Can we start slowly? Maybe coffee once a month?" I thought about it. "Maybe. We'll see. Thank you, Mom. That's all I'm asking for." We talked for another 20 minutes. It was not a perfect conversation, but it was a start. When we hung up, I felt something I had not felt in months. Hope. Not the naive hope I had carried before Thanksgiving, but a cautious, realistic hope that perhaps some things could be repaired. Ryan, on the other hand, remained distant. He called occasionally, but our conversations were stiff and formal. He had not apologized, not really. He seemed to be waiting for me to forgive him without acknowledging what he had done. I could not do that. Aaron never reached out. According to Jessica, he had finally gotten a job at a warehouse and was slowly learning to support himself. I felt no satisfaction in his struggle, but I also felt no obligation to rescue him. He was an adult. It was time he acted like one. Patty and I had our own slow reconciliation. She came to visit one Saturday in June, bringing flowers from her garden. We sat on my porch drinking iced tea, not saying much at first. Finally, she spoke. "I was jealous, Bonnie. I've been jealous of you since we were kids. You were always smarter, braver, more successful. When you got rich, it just magnified everything I felt I lacked. Instead of being happy for you, I resented you. I'm sorry." "I know," I said. "I forgive you. Really. You're my sister, but things can't go back to the way they were. I understand." We started meeting for coffee once a month. It was not the close relationship we once had. But it was something. Slowly, carefully, we were rebuilding trust. As autumn arrived again, I found myself sitting in my garden one afternoon, thinking about the year that had passed. I had been excluded from Thanksgiving, and in response, I had excluded my family from my estate. Some people might call that harsh or vindictive. I called it self-respect. I thought about my old will, the one that left millions to people who took me for granted. I thought about my new will, the one that reflected my values and rewarded true loyalty. I had not told anyone about the change. That was not the point. The point was not revenge. The point was establishing boundaries. The point was teaching a lesson about consequences. Would I ever change the will back? Perhaps. If Jessica continued to work on our relationship, if she showed genuine care beyond financial interest, I might reconsider. If Ryan ever truly apologized, I might soften. But those were possibilities, not promises. For now, the will stood as it was, a reflection of how I had been treated and how I chose to respond. I learned something profound in the year after that terrible Thanksgiving. I learned that giving without boundaries is not generosity. It is enabling. I learned that family is not defined by blood, but by how people treat each other. I learned that love without respect is not love at all. It is exploitation. I also learned that I did not need a large family to be happy. I needed authentic relationships. Dorothy, who showed up with soup when I was sick. Emma and Lucas, who called just to talk. The people at the shelter, who thanked me for my time. These were the relationships that filled my life with meaning. As for my children, they made their choice that Thanksgiving. They carved turkey without me, so I carved their names from my will. Some might say I was too harsh, but I disagree. I spent decades putting others first, swallowing my hurt, accepting poor treatment because I was afraid of being alone. In the end, setting that boundary freed me. I sit here now in my garden, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. I am 58 years old. I am a widow, a mother, a grandmother, and a woman who finally learned to value herself. My family excluded me from their Thanksgiving table, so I excluded them from my legacy. Not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. Do I have regrets? Yes. I regret that it took me so long to stand up for myself. I regret that my children never learned gratitude until it was too late. I regret that Thomas is not here to see what became of the family we built together. But I do not regret changing my will. I do not regret establishing boundaries. I do not regret choosing myself. Because in the end, the only person who will always be there for you is you. And you owe it to yourself to be treated with dignity, even by those who share your blood. Especially by those who share your blood. They carved turkey without me that Thanksgiving, so I carved their names from my will. Some people might call that harsh. I call it self-respect. Because in the end, the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. And I finally learned to honor that. Now, before you go, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been excluded by family? Have you ever had to set a painful boundary with someone you love? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that you deserve respect always. Take care of yourself. You're worth it.